Welcome to Branded Worlds, a transatlantic dialogue, where branding meets culture and sustainability is the thread that ties it all together. Hosted by Jeff Solomon in the US and Stephen Baumgartner in Europe. This is where global brand stories come to life, with purpose, people, and perspective. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts on how brands can better integrate culture and sustainability. Subscribe to Branded Worlds for more insights and inspiration, and let's build a future where brands truly make a positive impact. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Branded Worlds, a transatlantic dialogue where branding, business, culture, and global realities meet across continents. Today's episode explores how branded merchandise evolves when companies move from local campaigns to global infrastructure.
Exactly, Stephen, because at scale, merch is no longer just about products. It becomes about systems, platforms, data, and international coordination, all that complicated stuff. And that's where today's guests come in. And I am super excited about today's guests.
And you just mentioned it. Today we have two guests joining. Caleb Gilbertson, CEO of Imprint Engine, and Colin Lovren, Global CRO. Together with their team, they are building a company that helps global brands manage merchandise programs as strategic, tech-enabled ecosystems, not one-off transactions.
From enterprise merch platforms to cross-border fulfillment and measurable program impact, Imprint Engine, by the way, I love that name, sits right at the intersection of brand experience, operations, and scalability.
Caleb, Colin, welcome to our Branded Words. We're excited to explore how global merch programs are built, governed, and scaled across markets.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, shall we dive right into the dialogue?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's do
All
it.
right. Hey, so let's talk about product to platform. Many companies see merch as campaign-based. How do you help global brands transition from transactional buying to structured, tech-driven merchandise ecosystems? And how do you see, it's a two-part question for you guys, and how do you see differences in how US and European companies approach this shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry guys, I'm totally butchering this. We're gonna have to back up here for a second. I was trying to find my notes of who's taking which question.
Oh yeah, so you're going for the
Sorry.
first.
Colin will take over. Colin will take over. No problem at all.
You're going for the first part of the question, right? But if you like, I can talk about the differences. If you like, if you want, I can start off.
Yeah, maybe, Colin, the international one is more your part, because you're traveling a lot, and we have seen quite recently in Lisbon last year at the GXN meeting. So if there's someone to talk about where we are maybe different, the Europeans and the US, maybe that's your part. Yeah, let's start with the second half, and then we're jumping back to the first one.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate in this industry to be working all around the world. And in this new role in Imprint Engine, we work mainly with large global enterprises. Now, they tend to be mainly US founded, but they're operating worldwide. And at that level, I feel the need is exactly the same for these guys. Can you execute globally and consistently for them? And for me, really, the real difference is in US versus Europe. It's a little bit more about operational maturity. So what I mean by that, some global enterprises still think campaign by campaign. We love campaigns at Imprint Engine, especially global. So the question is, can we scale these programs globally? The answer for Imprint Engine is definitely yes. So what we find is that many of these global companies, they still operate in silos regionally within our space. So they're working separately. And at Imprint Engine, part of our goal, Stephen, is to bring them together. Right. And so when you talk about the technology, often we don't start with the tech. We start with credibility. We first learn to understand them and their business. And then when we see what their needs are, we can gently start to introduce the platform. But our technology can help them to save money. We can help them to save time. We can break down reporting for them. region by region or even team by team, and that enables us to make smarter decisions. So when our customers see what's possible globally with the aid of technology, then we see a mindset shift towards the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as it relates to, you know, transitioning from a, kind of a traditional transactional buying uh system that, most distributors are using today, emails and phone calls and stuff like that. Um, we're at Imprint Engine, we're really trying to build a technology platform that's combined of people, physical infrastructure, and world-class software that brings it all together. And that's really what we're using to try to differentiate ourselves and enable our buyers to utilize our services.
Okay, cool, perfect. You just mentioned it, to scale globally. Colin, you mentioned that first, most of the time you start with US-based customers, but at the end they are they want to have it fulfilled globally. Let's
Yes.
talk a bit about global scale and local relevance. Managing merchandise across continents requires balance. How do you ensure brand consistency globally while respecting local regulations, logistic realities, and cultural differences?
Well, it's a really good question. I think that global consistency comes from the structure that you have within the organization. One thing that we do at Imprint Agent is we use what I would call a true global account teams, and they're the true brand custodians. So we don't do handoffs to different people in different region. We completely combine the teams, and I think that's where a lot of magic happens. What we're finding is whenever we go global with our clients, that they want the same decks, they want the same quoting, they want the same white glove experience globally. Now, that's easier said than done because maybe our supply systems aren't really set up for that globally yet. So the thing that we find is that many of our companies in our space, they do claim, some of them claim to be global, right? Even some of the bigger guys, but they often, a lot of them operate through loose partners, or maybe they're doing handoffs from one territory or one region to the other. So for us, I think how we do this is we have our feet in the ground in the key regions. It's our people, right? And they work in our global teams. So that's what we see. Also, what I see is that some clients want identical products globally. Not so easy to do all the time. There are other companies who are okay with the regional adaptation. We find we're having people in the ground in the different regions. You learn about the differences, right? So in the USA, Stephen, they have these big Stanley Cups, right? Now you try and take a Stanley Cup and bring that to continental Europe, it's not going to work, right? And then in EMEA, for example, you have more need for compliance and sustainability than in other countries. In APAC, we find that there's more budget sensitivity. So what we find is some companies tend to ship everything from one location. So let's imagine they're shipping from the US. It can work sometimes, but it's expensive. It can be slow. You get custom delays with all of the tariffs regionally. I think what we find in Imprint Engine is if you can produce locally and deliver locally, that will help reduce the risk, and it's where some of the magic sauce happens.
Is there maybe one real biggest friction point in transatlantic programs? You just mentioned a few: customs, quality, different sizes. Even the zippers are in the US, or it depends where you are. They are on the wrong side. So these are the little things. But is there really one main issue where you say, okay, this is the most important? We as a service provider, supplier, distributor, whatever, we have to really make sure that this will not happen.
I think the biggest one is, brand consistency, and really adhering to the brand standards. That's probably one of the trickier things to do, especially if you do have to produce a different product with a different decoration method in a different region. It's super easy to screw that up. So, we work really hard and very close together with our internal teams and with the client. It requires a lot of, extra management to do it really well. That goes there. That same problem is, that still happens in, local regions when you're producing, different, maybe you're producing a water bottle and a notebook and you want the Pantone colors all to be the same. It just gets, the difficulty gets multiplied when you're trying to do it in other regions. And that's what all of our customers want. At the end of the day, they're design teams. They want things to be on brand. And it's an extremely easy thing to screw up. You can do almost the entire part of the sales process perfectly, and then you get to that, that part of it, and you can create a really poor experience for the customer at the end. So I think that's still the biggest friction point that we deal with when we're working on global, multi-regional programs.
Wow, pretty interesting. Let's talk a bit about infrastructure before creativity. And I know you guys are a super creative company as well. In our conversations across episodes, one theme keeps emerging. Structure enables creativity. How important is back-end infrastructure, data, forecasting, inventory, strategy, compliance before launching ambitious global merch initiatives?
I think it's critical. I mean, I think you have to have the infrastructure in place in order to execute whatever creative ideas you come up with. At Imprint Engine, that's something we've always focused on heavily, is building that infrastructure ahead of our customer needs, and that's it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of risk. You're like, as we go into other markets, we have to invest a lot of time, energy in that market to get that infrastructure in place before our design teams can come in and actually execute on top of it. I think it's extremely critical that you have that stuff in place. Otherwise, if you're relying on just a random partner that you haven't thoroughly tested, and then, the campaign comes up, with your customer, and you get to that point of the process and that partner fails, now you're scrambling. So, building that physical infrastructure is something Imprint has been investing in heavily in each region, which is, it takes a long time to get that in place. It doesn't happen overnight. Hiring the right people, getting them integrated into into our systems and into our processes it's definitely probably the riskiest part about expanding into another region, is getting that infrastructure nailed down. But with our approach when we even sell to customers, it's, we sell three things. We have people, we have physical infrastructure, and we have technology that ties it all together. So the infrastructure piece is a very critical piece in that puzzle, but the people and the technology are also equally important. So balancing all those things together, that's something we're working on every single day to try to make sure, we can provide a consistent experience to our customers around the globe.
Right. What happens if companies scale without that structure?
I'll take that one. First off, I'll say to you, Jeff, thank you for calling out the creativity within the Imprint Engine team. And for any of your listeners, I would just...
I've seen your work. Wait, people got to follow you guys on social media.
I really appreciate that, Jeff, because some of the creativity coming from our marketing team, I think it helps to elevate the whole industry, not just Imprint Engine. So yeah, creativity is a big part of what we do. But back to your question, without that infrastructure, to Caleb's point, global programs can fragment very quickly, right? So regions, they start sourcing independently. Your brand consistency will drift. Costs can rise through things like reactive freight, customs delays. You've got additional risk. There's higher compliance needs in Europe versus US, for example. So you're shipping something from US, it might not be compliant in that region. So I'm thinking things like shipping delays, tariff uncertainty. So with the infrastructure that we have at Imprint Engine, it kind of removes risk and uncertainty. And we also control our own warehouses. So all of these things really helps to give that true global brand experience.
Excellent.
Before I'm jumping to the next question, I just figured it out, and that's maybe also something special in that format, I would say. Basically, we are three competitors because we are three distributors.
Yeah.
We are talking to each other,
Yeah, that's cool.
about what makes the difference and what makes your company special. And I think that's something I think we have to mention because that's for sure not nothing normal, I would say, and we make it normal. But I
Yeah.
just realized that we are in different sizes, in different areas, in different regions. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same money. And that's also again where maybe branded words is a kind of special that we really bring the whole industry together, not only from the US to Europe and the other way around. So also really competitors talking to each other, sharing knowledge, and I think again that's a kind of special.
I,
I appreciate that.
I think it's super important. I think we need to do more of it. Competition at the end of the day is going to make us all work harder to provide the best customer experience. And also like what we're doing, trying to solve these global, you know, infrastructure problems is very difficult. Like it's going to take a lot of companies working really closely together and learning from each other, if we really want to ultimately build, a great solution for these global brands.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's jump to the next question. Data as a growth driver. Merchandise, and I think we all agree, is increasingly measurable. How does data exchange conversations with global brand leaders?
I think uh, merchandise has traditionally been like branded merch has been a harder thing for companies to measure. It's in an advertise if they use it as an advertising medium, there's not like, hey, I sent out, 1,000 welcome kits to my employees. I got X ROI on that. I think it's a difficult thing to measure. I don't think we have it solved yet. Uh, as an industry. I think we have to continue to all work together to, create measurable data points that brands can use to actually see the ROI on it. Um, it's definitely not there's not it's not like digital advertising where, hey, I sent out or I spent this much money on ads and I got this many leads in return. Um, it's definitely not as measurable as some other advertising mediums.
Again, I totally agree. Would you say that there is a difference between the US and Europe? Is there, or maybe some other regions in the world? Is there any region where you would say, okay, they do it better? We know from the numbers that the US, because of your big associations, you're a bit better, I would say, and maybe it's also because of the reason there's only one huge country, one currency, so maybe that makes it all a bit easier to bring it together. But would you say, especially on these data-driven stuff, the US are a bit ahead, or
I think, we definitely have, with like the likes of PPAI and ASI, they definitely invest a lot of money into research here in the US. And yes, I definitely think it's easier for them to measure that within the US versus, I definitely like as I've researched things in, APAC or in Europe, the data is much less mature in those regions. It's much more fragmented. So, here in the US, we definitely get a lot more insights from PPAI and ASI's studies. I think the Europe markets definitely have, and APAC regions definitely have a long way to go. There's just not as much consolidation in and or biggest. We have some smaller associations in Europe and in APAC, but they're not really talking to each other as much as I think they should. Um, but I think that that will get better over time, hopefully, and or you know distributors and suppliers are going to have to continue to work together closely to try to bring those insights out for the ultimate end customer.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the future of enterprise merch. Looking 5 to 10 years ahead, will global merchandise programs become more centralized or more decentralized?
Well, I'll start this one. First, I'll say this, Jeff. I've met many people in our industry over the last 23 years, But Caleb, in my mind, is one of the best visionaries in our industry. He's written an article last year about the future of our industry for AI, and I would recommend everybody to read it. So when it comes to the vision, Caleb is definitely the guy. But I'll tell you what I see at the moment. First off, I passionately believe that the future of our industry, there's going to be much more global, not less. I think, there's a combination for us at least. The combination is about thinking globally, but acting or executing locally. So I think that's how it's going to work in the future. I think that clients still need that regional product and compliance, intelligence. So yeah, the one way I would sum it up is think global, maybe act or execute locally, but only if you've got the infrastructure behind it to really support you. And I think the companies that will integrate both layers will really succeed.
How will automation, AI, and shifting workforce expectations redefine what enterprise merch even means?
I mean, I think AI is really going to just help make the process easier for these enterprise brands to execute different merch needs and or distributors and suppliers. A lot of distributors and suppliers are slowly integrating AI into their processes, which hopefully eventually ripples up to the end user so that they get a better experience. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the workforce changes. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world of where the job's going to go when AI starts taking those jobs. That's going to be an interesting impact on our industry or in every industry. I have the thought that I think brand and merch potentially will become more powerful in the next 5 to 10 years as digital mediums get cannibalized by AI. I mean, there's so much AI slop. You probably see it on your LinkedIn. There's people that are posting these massive things all the time, and it's clearly AI. And I think it's gonna get really messy in the digital realm. So I think enterprise brands are gonna need brand and merchandise experiences or they're going to need them even more than they need them now because it's going to get harder to make a connection with a person in the physical world due to all the digital chaos that's happening. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Maybe that's an optimistic view for our industry, but I like to be an optimist. So I think it's going to be interesting over the next 5 to 10 years, how AI really impacts the industry. I'm excited about it, but there are definitely a lot of unknowns and scary things that we're all gonna go through together.
Yeah, but again, I just can only agree on it. And I think it's not being optimistic in our industry, but I think there will be a kind of a bore out in digital because we are all overloaded by any kind of ads every day. And if you see that most of the ads, and I did a bit of a research on it, that they are maybe 3-4 seconds. Our brain is not really able to get it. So I would say it's wasted money. It's wasted marketing budget. But if then on the other side, if you go for a very well done merch item, it lasts forever. And you and everyone will use it every single day. If it's the coffee mug in the morning and you will have the logo placing every day on the desk, in the kitchen, at home with the kids, in the car. And this is something where digital media is for sure. It's cooler, it's faster, it whatever it is, but it can't last that long as well done merch is used to. And I think that's the big difference. And I totally agree, and I would not say it's a positive thinking because we are working in that industry. I think that we really, as long as we're doing a great job on sustainability, as long as it really fits to the brand and all that stuff, we have to make sure that's mandatory and that's a kind of must. Then I think I'm not scared about the future of our industry. And I think that's fact. As we are more or less done with all the questions, I was thinking about just to fill up our at least half an hour. I just wanted to get a bit more of an insight about the campaigns you have done, because we're talking a bit about global campaigns and global brands. Is there any highlighted campaign you have done in the last years where you would say, okay, that's a kind of best practice, and this is exactly what we want to create more or less every day on a global scale? Is there anything? I've been on your website, I've seen Uber, I've seen whatever, so different brands, but is there any specific one where you would say, okay, that was maybe the best we ever did, and that's a kind of a masterpiece we created, and this is what we really wanted to just copy paste to the other ones because it turned out well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably the biggest one in the last year or so here that we did was for Microsoft, global program. We're providing product in almost every region around the world cohesively to a very large number of people. So it was a very large project, about 10 to 12 SKUs, but high volume. And we're fulfilling that product out of Europe, out of North America, China, India. It was a fast moving project, but that's kind of a perfect example of a big global brand that needed to execute their needs in all these different regions cohesively. So that was, I would say, kind of the best case study in the last year, where we've actually used our global infrastructure, our global teams working together, and it executed it really well. So I would say that's probably the biggest one. Colin, I don't know if you had any others, but I think that's the highlight from the last year.
I agree.
And is there, because we don't know who's listening, but maybe also some brand managers are listening. Is there any company, any brand on the bucket list? I know, Colin, you are now responsible for the global growth. Is there one on top of your list where you would say, okay, this is the company we really want to get in, and we want to really show them how cool merch can be?
Well, we have a finite list of some of the most exciting companies in the world globally. We've also, the way we've set up our team now is we've got a new growth team that focuses only. We have a team that focuses only on going out and bringing in these big whales. We tend to do well with technology companies. It's not our only customer base, but technology companies in particular. I won't give any names specifically because we're progressing at various stages with a number of very exciting companies, but we have really big ambitions globally, and I'm really excited to see what our global growth team is going to be doing in the weeks and months ahead. There are some really cool companies in the pipeline or at various stages of onboarding. So without giving any specific names away, Stephen, I'm sorry, but I'll say that
No.
Stephen, that was, come on. You weren't really expecting him to share who he's going to target. I mean, I've got to go.
Good.
Let's just see how that plays out.
Good.
Good job.
I can easily say, okay, on my bucket list, it's Lufthansa and Red Bull, so I'm okay with it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, we have a very different customer bases, very different customer types, and the industry is so big, and that's the beauty. There is so much opportunity there for everybody, and I think the future is much better for companies who are thinking global and who are building something special, like your company, clearly, and like ours too. So I'm excited about the future.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I would say everyone be careful out there whenever Colin and his team is calling, getting super excited. And I think we're done for today. Caleb, Colin, thank you for showing that merchandise at scale isn't about more products; it's about better systems and a great network in the back.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Imprint Engine demonstrates that when infrastructure, technology, and brand strategy align, merch becomes strategic growth lever, not an afterthought.
This conversation again reminds us that global branding isn't just creative storytelling, it's operational excellence across borders.
This has been a great show. I feel like we've got this cool little casual relationship because we know each other, and it's been really great. Everybody can listen to this episode on all the typical podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, and at Branded Worlds Online.
Caleb, Colin, again, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your perspective on scaling responsibly and strategically.
Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep building these branded worlds.
Thanks for listening. Thank you so much, guys.